Good morning, good morning, good morning. Are you all awake? You want to go through the affirmations again? Huh? No, I'm teasing. Oh, sorry. Double duty for the sound person there. Thank you, Kathy, for that beautiful prayer. Well, good morning. All month long, we've been talking about the 12 powers, the 12 inherent spiritual powers. Each one of us has these powers that were realized by Charles Fillmore, one of the co-founders of the Unity Movement, and described in his book, The 12 Powers of Man. And specifically, we've been talking this month about the power of wisdom. And I've given you a lot to think about, hopefully. A lot of techniques and a lot of affirmations and meditations to add to your spiritual practice, all for the purpose of helping us to live more balanced lives, more holistic lives, evolved, even enlightened lives. Now, I know, as a speaker, that for you to listen to talks about fulfilling your goals and following your bliss and encouragement and vision, things like that, that really pumps you up and gets you all excited. Or hearing talks about happiness and joy, like we talked about a few months ago, that's a lot of fun. Or hearing talks about love and compassion and kindness, that makes us all feel warm and fuzzy. But wisdom, woohoo! And all its many attributes, the ability to deal with ambiguity and discernment, woohoo! Well, interestingly, Charles Fillmore kind of talks about this same thing in the very first paragraphs of the chapter about wisdom in his book, The 12 Powers of Man. And if I can paraphrase Charles Fillmore, he says something like, oh, love is all there is, and everybody's talking about love, and love is all you need. Love, Charles Fillmore says, this is a quote, makes many blunders. Takes you down the wrong road sometimes. It gets kind of complicated. He goes on to say, love will make any and every sacrifice for the thing that she loves. On the other hand, she is enticed into trap after trap in her blind search for pleasure. It was this kind of love that caused Eve to fall under the spell of sensation, the serpent. She saw that the fruit of the tree was pleasant to the eyes. Listen to this. She followed the pleasure of life instead of the wisdom that would have shown her how to use life. That's a question we can all ask ourselves this morning. Do we want the pleasures of life, or do we want the wisdom to know how to use life? Because here's the thing about wisdom. Wisdom helps you in every aspect of your life. Wisdom can help you in your relationships, help you to become more understanding, and help you to develop empathy and compassion, and learn how to communicate with your sweetheart. Wisdom can help you in the physical material realm, helping you to make wise investments, or to wisely know how to save, or to spend your money, or even the perfect potatoes to pick out at the grocery store. Wisdom can help you, this innate intuition can help you with questions you might have with your health and vitality, because it's this wisdom of the soul that is your inner God consciousness. Rebuilding, regenerating through you and as you, with this essence, this energy of life we call God. So in the Old Testament, you might remember in Proverbs, it talks about wisdom. And in Job 28, it says, wisdom cannot be bought with the finest gold, nor can its price be weighed out in silver. It cannot be bought with precious onyx or lapis lazuli. Neither gold nor crystal can compare with it, nor can it be had for jewels of gold. Coral and jasper are not worthy of mention. The price of wisdom is beyond rubies. The topaz of Cush cannot compare with it. It cannot be bought with pure gold. That's how valuable wisdom is. And of course, in the New Testament, you might remember the master teacher, Jesus, talking about the pearl of great price. Remember that? He compared the kingdom of heaven to a pearl of great price. And when the merchant found it, he went out and sold everything he had just so he could buy that pearl of great price. Well, we know that the kingdom of heaven is within us, and that wisdom is to be found by going within. Going within. You know, some people fear going within and accessing this kingdom of heaven that Jesus spoke so articulately about and so frequently about. They're afraid of the wisdom that comes from going within. In fact, some people are told and taught not to go within. Oh no, you want to stay away from stuff like that. Oh no. And it all hinges on a false belief in separation, believing that they are separate from God, and that whatever is here is faulty or a failure or evil. It even breaks my heart to say that. And it's in need of repair or redemption. And that is not even close to anything that we teach here at Unity Center of the Desert. We know and teach and believe that God is all there is. And all things come from that one power and presence, period. That we are made in the image and likeness of the divine, that we are wondrously and magnificently and miraculously made. And it's this deep sense of awe and reverence for God, this deep awareness of the sanctity of life, and this overwhelming feeling of gratitude for life that is the foundation that we stand on. And it is the beginning of wisdom. You know, we've been hearing a lot about fear and anger in the world, in our country. In the last several months, we've been hearing about a couple of people who have tapped into the fear and anger of the people. Do you know how easy it is to tap into fear and anger? We've been doing that for centuries. We're really well rehearsed at tapping into fear and anger. I can tap into my fear and anger just driving down 24th Street here and getting in back of a slow-moving vehicle. And tap into my fear that, I'm going to be late for church, or afraid that I forgot to turn off the coffee pot, or I forgot to pay a bill. I can tap into my anger standing in a long line at Fry's grocery store. And I finally get up there, and the lady in front of me wants to cash in a year's supply of coupons. And then she wants to pay by a check. How dare she do that to me? Tapping into fear and anger. That's like tapping in to my innate ability to throw a temper tantrum because I rehearsed it so well as a child. Hopefully we've grown out of that, and because I've learned that as an adult, throwing temper tantrums doesn't help me live a happy, healthy, successful life. But it's interesting to me, and I hope it is to you, that fear, that science has discovered that fear operates from an ancient part of our brains, and that whereas wisdom operates from the part of our brains that is responsible for the higher cognitive functions, like decision-making and control of the emotions. So what do you want controlling your life? Fear and anger? Or wisdom and control of the emotions? The amygdala is that ancient part of our brains that nature developed to help animals, to protect them from harm. It's sometimes called the fight, flight, or freeze defense mechanism. You've heard of that. We have 3 cats, Annie, Claycy, and Ocho. I know it's so cliche for 2 women that live together to have cats, but it's true. But I swear, we didn't find them; they found us. But the weather's been so beautiful lately. In the evenings, we've enjoyed sitting out on our patio and watching the beautiful Arizona sunsets. And so our cats will join us, and they're lounging out on the cool bricks on the patio. And Cloyce, she's the princess. She's a pretty cat. She's about 14 years old. And when she was a year and a half about a year and a half old, she got hit by a car, and so it messed up her hip. So she's very skittish. We call her the miracle cat. But she'll be laying out on the patio, just enjoying the coolness of the evening. And if she hears a car engine rev up, she takes off for the door. And she's standing at the door. Her eyes are just the size of saucers. Let me in, let me in. That's the flight mechanism. And it helps her. It protects her and keeps her from harm. Ocho is our baby. He came to us in 2008. That's why we call him Ocho, so we remember how old he is. But he's spoiled. Kathy doesn't like him to go outside because she's afraid that he won't know how to take care of himself, which is probably true. He knows nothing of being outside. And so he's a big old cat, and he'll go outside and be with us, and he walks around real slowly like this. And he'll come up to a bougainvillea flower, and he stops just like that. And then he realizes the flower. It's okay. One time, there was a little tiny frog about that big. And here's a big old Ocho, and he's walking really slowly because he doesn't know anything that's around him. All of a sudden, he sees that frog, and then he sniffs the air and he realizes it's okay. That's the freeze mechanism. It helps protect him from all kinds of harm from those big scary frogs. And then there's our oldest cat, Annie. And she's tiny but mighty. She might be 9 pounds. She's the oldest, and she is ferocious. I call her our guard cat, and sometimes you'll see her policing the perimeter of our property. But we'll be hanging out on the patio, and maybe a stray cat will waltz through, and she goes out after that cat, and she just chases it out of the yard. She's ready for a fight. That's the flight mechanism, and that helps her. It helps her to protect her family from harm. We don't really have the need for those kind of expressions anymore because we have a part of our brain that is called the prefrontal cortex that helps us to detect conflict and helps us to realize the good of the group and helps us to make decisions and to control our emotions. So if we express fear and anger, where does that energy, where did those emotions go? Well, for one thing, it registers in our bodies. If you're always in a state of fear or anxiety or anger, your nervous system is highly active and it can become overly exerted. That can lead to a weakened heart or stiffer arteries, or it can cause even liver or kidney damage or high cholesterol. And if you're always hanging out in fear and anger, you know that sometimes what follows that is depression and anxiety. Doesn't sound too good, does it? So I guess it all comes down to how you feel about your life. What do you think about your life? Do you cherish your life? Is it precious to you? Do you value who you are? Do you value your life? I think of my life as a luxury car. I think of my life as a Maserati. And I want to take care of it. I want to polish it up. I want to fill it full of the highest grade fuels, and I want to enjoy this ride. How about you? How do you think of your life? Do you think of your life as a Maserati? Well, you wouldn't want a fearful, undisciplined, tantrum-throwing toddler driving your Maserati, would you? No. You'd want to be in control of it. So you don't want fear and anger driving your car, driving your life. No. You want to be in control of your life. And the 12 powers help us to do that. Specifically, the power of wisdom. Now, when we're talking about wisdom, if you're like me, it conjures up an image of like an old monk up on a mountainside with a long white beard and a walking stick, somewhere in the jungles of Peru or in Tibet. Or maybe you think, well, I think of my Grandma Pearl sitting in a rocking chair and dispensing pearls of wisdom, usually moral concepts. But when we're talking about this power, this innate power, when we're talking about awakening this power that we all have, we're not talking about the wisdom that comes with age. We're talking about the wisdom of the ages being accessible to you right here, right now, regardless of your age. We're not talking about worldly wisdom that's gained through experiencing the outside world, we'll call it. No, we're not talking about that wisdom that comes with experience. We're talking about an inner experience with divine truth that opens you to expressing a greater awareness of who you are, that brings an enlightened objectivity about your life and those around you, and the intricate and interconnectedness of life, that helps you to see situations and people in a higher place, and helps you to come to conclusions that are spirit-based. So I hope you're getting this connection between fear and wisdom. Actually, the disconnection between fear and wisdom. Because fear keeps us in how can I say, an agitated place. Whereas wisdom places us in an elevated space. Fear keeps us tight in our hearts and tight in our minds. Whereas wisdom opens us up. It opens our hearts that are filled with empathy and compassion and love. It opens our minds that are filled with clarity and intuition. So, as I'm talking about wisdom, you might call to mind a verse in the Old Testament that says, "The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom." You familiar with that? The fear of the Lord is the beginning of the wisdom. That makes it sound like fear and wisdom somehow go together. That word fear, though, it's kind of unfortunate that it's been translated like that, because the Jewish word there is yirat, and it has such a richer, fuller, deeper meaning than we have anything that compares in the English language. That word yirat actually means awe or reverence. And in fact, some Jewish scholars say that it means to see. To see is the beginning of wisdom. So as we put aside our ego personality constructs, and fear and anger are very much a part of our ego constructs. As we put that aside, then we open up. We open our eyes to see the magnificence of life, the perfection of life. We begin to see that there's a design to life, that there are universal principles at work in our world, and we begin to understand and awaken to our ability to wisely use those universal principles in our lives. So, how do we activate the power of wisdom in our lives? Well, it begins by cultivating a sense of awe and reverence for God, a sense of awareness of the sanctity of life, a deep gratitude for your life and for others and for this world. And I want to give you just a simple technique to help you to begin your day in this atmosphere of awe and reverence, or gratitude, if you want to call it that, and so that you can be more open to awakening wisdom in your life. It's a real simple technique, and if all it is that as soon as you wake up, sit on the side of your bed, put both hands at your side, hold you up while you're waking up, and your spine is erect as you can have it. You don't even have to open your eyes for this, because we're going to access the inner eye. But while you're sitting there, still waking up, just take a deep breath and say, "Good morning, God." And just hang out in that space for as long as you want to, still waking up. Or if you feel more comfortable, say, "Good morning, life," or "Good morning, world." and hang out in that space. And then take a deep breath, and on the exhale, thank you. And another deep breath, and on the exhale, thank you. And another deep breath, on the exhale, thank you. 3 times, one for body, mind, and spirit. Simple. Begin your day every day this week and see what happens. I very firmly believe that as we open our ability to of wisdom, awaken to that ability, as more and more people awaken to the power of wisdom within them, that human consciousness will become more open and conditioned to the essence of wisdom, which is love and oneness. And that this false belief in fear and separation will fall back into the nothingness from which it came. And we'll become stronger and more courageous, and that our approach to life will be more loving and empathic and more inclusive. You say yes to that? Can I get an amen to that? May it be so, and so it is. You want to share that on Facebook? All right, let's go into a contemplation time just to kind of integrate the things that have been coming up for you and spoken of this morning. So, it's still morning time. Just take a deep breath and silently say, "Good morning, God." Deep breath and silently say, "Good morning, life." A deep breath and silently say, "Good morning, world." Take a deep breath, and on the exhale, silently, just say thank you. Another deep breath, and silently on the exhale, thank you. And one more deep breath, and silently on the exhale, thank you. All is well. We know that all is well, so we let it be so, and so it is. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes and come back to the room. Come the lights. Are you back?